Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another one of our Marketing Moments webinar series. My name is Julio Barea, Chief Revenue Officer for the in-home division of LivTech. I'm joined, as always, going on 2 years now with my friend and partner, Debbie Miller, CEO of 52 Weeks Marketing. Good morning or good afternoon, Debbie. How are you?
Hi there, Julio. I'm great,
Hello.
thanks.
I'm glad to hear it. Here we are again. I think we talked about last time. This is number 12, 13, 14. I can't even keep track at this point. But to those who have been following us now for the last year and a half, we appreciate you for joining us again. And if you're new, you are in for an absolute treat. Debbie really shares specific, relevant information that you can use in your agency today. And today is an interesting subject, talking about scaling without breaking the bank, using virtual assistants to build real infrastructure. And I'll talk a little bit more on that. The webinar today is hosted by Alora, powered by LivTech. It's a home health, hospice, and home care platform, and 52 Weeks Marketing, which is Debbie's company that offers marketing services for the home care industry. All right, so let's talk a little bit about today's objectives. And I know we had been chatting about this a little bit, Debbie, and what really drove you to this is you saw, and I know you'll talk about it, but if there's one business where I know people are overworked, it's home care agency owners. It's probably the most overworked job that I see. And it's one of the reasons you built the business, secondary business that you built to your other businesses. And it's helping these owners who really are trying to learn how to work smarter and not work harder. So today, you're going to share the importance of building a strong operational infrastructure. We've talked about this before. Without process and infrastructure and the right way to do things can get chaotic really quick. I'm sure everybody on this call knows that. She's going to talk about the benefits of offshore hiring. That is a no-brainer when it comes to managing your margin, the cost savings versus in-house hiring, and how to get started in best practices for hiring virtual help. So, Debbie, we're going to pivot over to you. I am actually very curious because I don't think we've talked about this, is kind of what led you down this path, given all the other things that you're doing today. So, folks, handing it over to Debbie, and let's get started.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And to your point about this is a lot of folks are very overworked. Running a home care business is so complicated. My partner, Dylan, is on the phone, my partner in 52 Weeks and in Helper Heroes. And we talk about it all the time where we see people, they had no idea really what they were getting into when they started a home care agency. Because in this business, we are managing multiple balls, right, at one time. Recruiting, hiring caregivers, onboarding caregivers, scheduling them, managing client care, marketing, payroll, on and on and on it goes. And whether you are just starting out or you're a well-established business, there are points in your growth where you're going to have to expand your existing team. You can't do it all, right? And we often see owners wearing multiple hats and burning out their team who are wearing multiple hats. So you said earlier, let's not work harder, let's work smarter. But what does that really mean? After I'm in my 19th year in home care, and this is what it means, that you don't grow by working harder, you grow by building infrastructure so that you and your team can work smarter. So I'm definitely going to tease this out a lot as we go through this presentation. I'm going to share my own experience, what I've learned, share some insights on how to build a business that can actually handle the growth that you're trying to create. And I'm going to show you a better way. So we're going to grow by building our infrastructure. So let's be honest. And if I was to ask you, who here feels that their team is maxed out right now? Or who feels like you're the backup plan for everything? Hear that a lot. And let's be honest, is there anybody here who's actually turning down clients, turning down growth, even if it's quietly? If the answer is yes to any or all of these, this is the nature of our business, right? You're officially running a home care business. So let's go to our first questionnaire, our survey here, and I'd like to hear from you all what you're feeling the pinch. What areas are you really feeling some pain? Is it scheduling, recruiting, on call, maybe managing your leads and intake, billing? I should have put other. So if we could watch that, Julio.
Absolutely. So, where are you feeling the most pain right now? Let's love to have everybody ask and answer. Are you feeling it in scheduling? Are you feeling it in recruiting, on call, intake leads, or follow up, or billing? Please just press that button right there on your screen and it will tell us. We'd love to hear your answers. I'm always curious as to the answers on this one as well. I think what I see is scheduling seems to be a very busy problem for most people. On call is challenging. How close? Well, I was wrong on the on call. Recruiting, there you go. Followed by
That's
intake.
shocking about on call.
I am shocked as well. I do hear a lot about on call being a big concern with agencies, but so is scheduling, recruiting, intake, and leads follow up. Interesting.
Okay, good to know. So let's move on. And with 52 Weeks Marketing, my team and myself, we work with hundreds of agencies, probably several hundred, and our focus is really helping them grow their business through our feet on the streets marketing. But too often we see businesses hit a growth ceiling or a plateau, right? They're generating referrals, which is amazing, but operationally it's chaos back at the ranch, and they can't handle the volume that they're generating. They've been working so hard to do. And what we see are these bottlenecks that happen. Not enough caregivers because someone took their eye off recruiting, or onboarding is behind and they can't put the caregivers they hired to work yet because all the paperwork's not done, or schedulers are overwhelmed, things are falling through the cracks, clients are getting frustrated. You lose cases, you can't start cases. You've got a burned out team, they're unhappy because they don't feel like they're doing a good job. And ultimately marketing comes to a grinding halt. And I love this picture. It's the stressometer. Every office, I think, should have the stressometer, and people can actually kind of put where they are on the stressometer. And this is actually could help you determine where you need some additional infrastructure. So it's kind of a bit of a joke, but actually I think it could be really useful. The bottom line is growth without infrastructure creates a lot of stress, right? So keep that little stressometer in mind as we go through here. But the tricky part ultimately though is I've got to balance. I know I need some more infrastructure, but the cost of doing that. And I remember when I was building my business, it was so scary to have to go back and dip into our pocket when we're finally making a little bit of money. And we know that we've got to bring on a scheduler or another marketer or whatever it is. And so it's a challenge, right? And knowing when to do that and where to position this person. Where do I actually really need this person? And how am I going to afford it? So these are all real challenges that people face every single day, and I totally get it. Now, when I was building my business, almost 19 years ago, we had to hire a full-time employee. We didn't have a lot of options that people have today, which I'm going to share with you. But I do want to address the cost issues because these are real. All right, these are, things have changed. We have a major wage inflation, right? Which is a huge issue, both from a caregiver perspective as well as administrative staff perspective. So what we see is revenues going up, often because of price increases, but the profitability is not necessarily keeping up with our growth. And so why is that? We've got caregiver wages are going up 20 to 30% since I started. It's been, when we started, we were paying our caregivers $8.25, I believe, an hour. Can you imagine? And look at where we're at now. Administrative salaries are up. When we would lose a scheduler, when I was ready to hire another scheduler because somebody left, whatever the case was, I was paying $5,000 to $7,000 more a year for the next hire, just in a matter of less than a year. So costs are absolutely skyrocketing. We've got overtime and inefficiencies in our operations that are also eating into our margins. And so ultimately revenue is going up, but profitability is not. This is definitely a problem. What are all those other things like taxes, benefits, training time, turnover costs? All of those things factor in as well. And the reality is every hire is a financial risk. That's how owners look at it. And many agencies end up running too lean because of that. All right, so I want to share with you the shift that we're seeing in home care that smart agencies are really making, okay? And so this is hiring offshore talent or virtual assistant. And so this offshore talent is not a new idea, okay? Other industries have been using folks from other countries for many, many years, and home care is just now catching up. So when we look at, say, just the Philippines, sourcing from the Philippines, it's kind of started in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it started with the internet boom that we saw a lot of call centers pop up, right? And then there was a shift to the virtual assistant model around 2008, 2012. And then an explosion happened during COVID, and COVID normalized remote work. I remember when during COVID, we started doing virtual interviews and never looked back. And we'd scratch our head, go, why didn't we do this before? So this is an incredible model that can help with things like recruiting, for example. So right now, if we look at the Philippines, just the Philippines alone, it's the #1 country for US-based virtual assistant hiring. So I want to dispel some of the myths or misconceptions. And so what we often hear about is they think that this is going to be low quality labor. All right. And that is actually not the fact. They are actually highly trained professionals and who've got, college education and have vast work experience. You don't have to replace your core team. They can support your core team. And it's not complicated to manage them. A lot of people are managing virtual workers, that may be based in the US. That's become a little bit more common. So it works the exact same way. You can have these folks who are trained professionals dedicated to your agency, and you can integrate them into all of your systems that you're currently using. Now, imagine what you could take off your plate and what you could streamline for some of your team members, right? So that you can place your really strong members of your team into more strategic roles. So if you could take some of the more mundane tasks off of them so that you can put them in more strategic, maybe client-facing, growth specific types of roles, which I did in my own organization, and I'll share that with you. So think about this. What if these were some of the areas that you could get staff? Scheduling coordination, caregiver recruiting, onboarding, billing, payroll, administrative tasks, right? So what this would allow for you is to increase your growth opportunities because you've increased your capacity. So what do we see with more capacity? You have faster response times. You can staff more cases, which means more conversions. You keep your clients because they're satisfied. You're able to address their concerns in a proactive way versus reactive way. And then ultimately, you're generating more revenue. So this is really important. Obviously, you can't, you can bring in as many referrals as you can, but if you can't handle them, it's very disappointing. Certainly for your marketers, right? You know what it's like. If you've got your sales team, Julio, and you can't service what they're bringing in the front door, they're not gonna stay with you for very long. So, and we see it all the time, unfortunately. Dylan and I see this where folks, and Sean, our other partner, who is, talking with these and coaching our marketers, and they're frustrated by what's happening in the office. So when I caught wind of this whole concept of these virtual assistants, and it was during COVID that I really, put my, wanted to really figure this thing out. So you could say that I drank the Kool-Aid in a really big way. I got very excited about this idea of offshore workers to fill certain roles. And I was really focusing on recruiting and scheduling. But then I quickly realized that not all virtual assistant agencies are created equal. And so for the first couple of years, I used several different agencies and had some frustrations, had some good experiences and some not so good. And one of the big issues was working with folks who don't really understand home care. All right, so you've got agencies that are, been working for call centers and things like that, but scheduling home care is a completely different animal, right? It's a hard job and it's complicated. So that was a bit of an issue. English was okay because some of the companies I used were sourcing from different countries. Some of the accents were more acceptable to my clients and my caregivers. And so that was a bit of an issue. So some had stronger accents. That was something that we had to deal with. And here was my biggest frustration. I still was dealing with turnover. And when I really got to the bottom of it, because I got, experienced some real frustration to train these people, and we're definitely improving our margin. But then if I had to start training all over again, I still didn't have a consistent, stable team of schedulers in particular. And so what I uncovered was that a lot of these agencies pay very low wages to their virtual assistants. So they're collecting a good amount from me, but not passing a lot of that along to the actual worker. And so they would get other opportunities, whether it was 25 cents or 50 cents more. Well, if you're making somewhere between $2 and $4, 50 cents is a big deal. So what we ended up doing is, in my business, we partnered with the Filipino virtual assistant that Dylan and I were using in 52 Weeks Marketing. This gal was super connected. She's an engineer by trade, so she's an operational guru. And she staffed all my virtual assistants in my organization. I now have 9 virtual assistants that work in my home care business. And so I'm going to show you my current org chart, and I'm going to walk you through kind of the steps and things and the way that this has really impacted my business. So this is my organizational chart. All right. What you see in green are the positions that are being held by a virtual assistant. And when we talk about virtual assistant, but they're truly our team members. They're truly my employees. And they are very, very integrated in our whole operation as well as with our team. So as you can see here, all the green, we've got 9 positions there. Before our on-call, and you'll see that I've got 2 full-time people that are dedicated to on-call, we had a rotation. So our scheduling staff rotated, which was part of the reason why we had a really bad turnover in my organization with schedulers. They hated on call. I have a big operation. I'm doing almost 8,000 hours a week. So just FYI, to set some context for this org chart, not everybody needs all these people. I have a good size agency, but we now have dedicated people that we were able to add to our structure. So these are additional positions we didn't have before, including an additional position with a scheduling coordinator. All right, so that's additional 3 people in my scheduling department. And a couple of people left, I was able to replace them with virtual assistants as they sort of transitioned out. We also have 2 full-time recruiters. And so I kind of shifted our whole focus with our recruiting. And what I was able to do, I had 4 full-time, these are full-time positions, y'all. All right, paying between $45,000 and $55,000 in salaries. And I was able to replace 4 people with 2 virtual assistants and an engagement software, an engagement platform that helped us automate the recruiting process. All right, so where you see those 2 X's were positions that I could actually eliminate. And then we added on a payer coordinator who's handling all my long-term care insurance, all my guide referrals, which is growing exponentially, as well as our VA billing. So that was an additional member. So as you can see, we actually have more people in the areas that we needed them in, and we're actually paying a lot less and literally no turnover since we started this, and a whole lot less chaos. Now, as you can see on the right-hand side, I've got a robust marketing engine, right? So we've got to have the operational muscle in my organization to keep up with the growth that they're generating. And as I said, nothing worse than these marketers doing all that work and we can't staff those cases. And we see this a lot. We see so many people end up having to shift their focus away from marketing to deal with these operational issues. And that's how Helper Heroes was born. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. All right, so here I want to show you the actual impact on my business. And for those that have been following our sessions and for any of the educational events that I have shared, I always like to put my money where my mouth is and show you the impact it's having on my business, anything that I'm teaching. And so 18 months ago or 2 years ago, when we were sort of like still didn't have that solid team, this is what we dealt with. All right, so this before. We were stuck, we weren't growing, we were reactive versus proactive, and my staff was overwhelmed. All right, and so these are some of the statistics. We had a really high turnover rate in my office. Our morale was very low. Burnout was high. Our revenues were flat, and our wages were 23% of our revenue. All right, because we weren't growing, we were poised for growth. So I had the people, the positions, but we were paying a fortune, and ultimately that affected our profit. Our profit was low. All right, our net profit margin. Now we are proactive as a team. We're very growth focused, and we have control versus chaos. I can't even tell you. It's just a game changer. So we have a stable team. Our morale is high. Our employees are really happy. They literally, our daytime scheduling team do not touch the phone when they leave this office. They do not touch the phone on the weekend, in the mornings, or in evenings. They come in, they show up at 8 o'clock, and they turn back those phones to our on-call team, and everybody is much happier. We grew 21%, and our wages are now 15% of our revenue. All right, and as a result, we've increased our profit by 133%. All right, so we've had the highest profits this year than we've ever had. So we are just in such a much better place. So this is truly something that can make a difference for your business and help you grow that infrastructure. Now, one of the things that I hear a lot and questions that I get is, well, I actually just heard this in a call that I did yesterday. It was an owner that was calling about the VAs, and he was saying, well, I have a very discerning clientele. All right, was the word that he used. And he said, and I don't want to give up. I don't want them to feel like they're not being supported or to feel like we've lost any quality. And so I wanted to share with you and give you a taste of the quality that we have and that you have available to you with these offshore workers. All right, so I'm hoping you're going to be able to hear this. We did a little test run. But this is Carla. Carla is one of our schedulers who was promoted recently. She's very excited about this promotion. I'm hoping you're going to be able to hear that in her voice. And I just wanted you to hear her English, her accent, and how similarly the culture is to the American culture. All right, so Dylan, if you can give it a whirl, I'm hoping we're going to hear this.
Hi team, my name is Carla, and I'm the scheduling manager for Zone 1, looking after our Franklin and Murfreesboro areas. I actually started here as a coordinator, and believe it or not, it's been over a year, and I'm so grateful for the journey that led me to my current role. I truly love working with people, and I'm a big believer that we can learn something from everyone we meet. For me, the best part of the job is how it helps me grow as a person while making sure our clients get the support that they truly need. And I feel so lucky to be part of such an amazing team. When I'm off the clock, I love staying active playing badminton and pickleball with friends. But if I'm being honest, my absolute favorite way to relax is having my face buried in a good book with a nice drink in my hand. It's the best. I'm looking forward to working with y'all, and I'm genuinely excited to see all the great things the future has in store for us.
Okay, I wish you could have seen that live, but and I'm going to share another. This is the gal that when Carla was promoted, this is the gal that took over for her, and so she had a little funny approach to the video, and she's came in as a scheduling coordinator, and that's typically how we start to get them the scheduling experience. So go ahead, Dil.
Thank you for calling Senior Helpers. Oh, hi there. My name's Hazel May Afgaliano, and I work as a phone support representative at Senior Helpers. I specialize in providing administrative support to help ensure smooth and efficient service. And I value excellence and commitment. I believe that strong relationships are built on trust, honesty, and clear communication. And I'm just so passionate about contributing to the continued growth and success of Senior Helpers. Outside work, I enjoy relaxing with my iced Spanish latte while watching movies on the couch. It helps me stay balanced and inspired. And I'm just so truly happy, and it's such a pleasure to be here at Senior Helpers. I look forward to learning and growing together. Thank you.
So we have a lot of emphasis on Senior Helpers because I actually had them do these videos for our 2026 kickoff team meeting with all of my employees. So that's why you're hearing that. But what you hear in that is how absolutely motivated they are, right? So this is why virtual assistants work so well in my experience. They're skilled. I mean, you could hear them. They're actually very educated. They're very process driven. And they're affordable, right? And absolutely dedicated, as you can hear, to our business and excited to show up every day. And, that was a breath of fresh air when we started this whole process. And it's been really wonderful to help us really scale for growth. So what happened is we basically nailed this whole model. And like most things that we commercialize as on the business front, we like to make sure that it works well within my organization. So Senior Helpers here in my business is always a great pilot and trial ground that we use to really get things well oiled and to become, it allows us to scale things. And so that's where we're at right now. So this was sort of an accidental business, Helper Heroes. And we now are at a point where, and we started by first supporting our 52 weeks clients and getting them the support they need so that they could focus on marketing and growth. And it's just far expanded beyond that. And we've got an incredible infrastructure now in the Philippines and a true partner in this business. So Dylan and I have a true partner that is based in the Philippines. Her name is Seldy, as I mentioned earlier. And she manages our very robust team that we have there now. And we are staffing folks across the country in all of these positions. And so if you want more information, we'll have an opportunity to get you some information here at the end. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what does this look like? It's easier than you think to get something like this started. So here is my challenge to y'all is to identify the bottlenecks that are hurting your growth. Is it that you don't have enough caregivers? Do you have scheduling issues? You can't staff quickly enough? Maybe losing clients, or your clients are dissatisfied because you're not able, things are falling through the cracks. Those kinds of things that will, if you're seeing that, it's time to really think about this. You might look at who's feeling the work pinch. Do that stressometer, right? And identify the tasks that they can offload to somebody else so that they can focus on the important things that are driving your business. And think about what is getting in the way of them doing the things that they're really good at, as an example. Do you have anybody on your team that you are at risk of losing? Maybe you know that they're looking for other alternatives or maternity leave. I don't know, anything like that. Or is there somebody on the team that you're putting up with that isn't working up to par and you would like to replace them? That's another opportunity. So my suggestion is you choose one or two roles, start with one or two roles to be outsourced, and then a key thing is the training. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but just as though you were hiring somebody that was going to be sitting in the desk next to you or the office next to you, you've got to invest in good, solid training. Just like anybody else, there's no such thing as pixie dust where we just sprinkle a little pixie dust and from day one they know what they're doing. And then ultimately what you'll want to do is scale as you grow. All right. So as you, and this was our model and our idea was that we would start with one position and people would, and we literally have a client right now that has 24 virtual assistants with us. Huge operation, but it's going so well. All right. So using an agency, I think it's really important that you do use an agency, and you want to work with an agency that does the following things. First of all, specializes in home care, right? Understands home care, understands all of these critical roles that we are needing to fill. You want somebody that doesn't have a long-term contract. You're not happy. Why should you be forced to work with that agency? You want somebody that is sourcing talent from Americanized cultures. That's why I love the Philippines. They watch American TV. They understand our idioms. They've been working for American companies for many, many years. They understand how we do business in America. The other thing is an agency that has a very strong HIPAA compliance program. And it's one thing to say, oh yeah, we have HIPAA compliance. You want somebody that gives an individual certification to and names your virtual assistant in that certificate. That's really key. You want an agency that offers training and home care best practices. And that's, again, where having that home care specialty is really comes in. You want an agency that has flexible hours. We work with a lot of young owners that maybe can't afford full-time yet. So if you can have an option to do part-time and have that person grow with you as you grow your organization. You want some leadership that is in the source country, and that they can get the support they need in their own country. And then end of day activity reports, so you'll be able to hold those folks accountable. And this is key, really, really important. You want to work with an agency that pays their virtual assistants well, so that they stay with you. Retention is key in our business, and we want you to have somebody that's going to stay with you for a long time. So what to look for? You first, and I did want to mention this, you want to work with an agency that's going to allow you to make the decision on who you actually hire, not somebody that's just going to place a virtual assistant in. You want a voice in that decision-making process, okay? So when you are interviewing folks, these are the things you want to look for. Obviously, strong communication skills, right? A lot of times English is excellent, but accents are strong, and that you want to take that into account. You may be working in an area where they're accustomed to certain accents, and that's perfectly fine. In the South, that was a real concern and an issue for us. And so we found that the Filipino accent was very, very acceptable in our particular area. All right, so strong communication skills, somebody who's very organized and a self-starter. Look at their resume and previous experience, okay? Many of them have worked for incredible organizations with vast experience. And so do they have the skills? They're transferable. This person needs to be tech savvy and fast to learn, process oriented, speaks and writes excellent English. Keep in mind the writing is key, right? They're going to be texting, they're going to be emailing. So test those skills. And a bonus is experience in home care. All right, some will, some won't. But that's definitely a bonus if you find somebody that has experience. But always ask why they're no longer working for the previous home care agency. All right, that would be really, really key. And I would talk to the person that works for them in America as at another home care agency. All right. So when you are working with the agency, they aren't going to do everything for you. This is your part in ensuring that this person gets off to a good start and continues to be able to operate at full capacity. So what do you need to do? Have well-defined job description and key performance indicators. What are those things that you're going to be holding this person accountable to? Share that. All right. You want a defined work schedule so that when we're going to source talent for you, we're looking for somebody that is committed to the schedule that you have outlined. Okay. It's whatever your needs are. You want to have well-defined processes and policies that you're going to train to and actually hold them and allow them to follow those so that they're doing things your way. Technology support. So you obviously need to provide access to everything that they're going to be needing to be successful. Access to your operating system, telephone system, a way to communicate with the team, etc. Communication platform and what your protocols are in communicating across your team. Dedicated trainer with time to train. So this is the toughest part for hiring anybody. If you're hiring somebody in your office, this is also really challenging, right? So you need to, because business goes on, you're still running your business. But when you start somebody, you definitely want to have that dedicated trainer and allow them the time to do the job that needs to be done to get them off to a good start. You would want to have daily check-ins and regular meetings with them. We make this a daily part of our workflow. So before they pass the baton to our daytime staff, we have a quick meeting. And at the end of the day, we have a quick meeting. We're constantly having meetings. We meet just like this picture demonstrates as a team on whether it's Zoom or Ring Central or whatever it is, and include them in your team meetings. All right. So I can't emphasize this enough. This is not we say virtual assistant, but this is part of your team. This is a true employee. Yeah, you're going to get around the agency acts as a middleman, and is very involved in the sourcing and setting up this opportunity for you to create this person as your employee. But you want to integrate them as much as possible. Things that you can do to make them feel part of your team. Meetings. We just had our big employee meeting for 2026. They were on the phone, just like you see on that screen, and they came in virtually. We did a happy hour birthday party for one of the folks on our team, and they joined us through Ring Central. So they were, they were drinking margaritas, and our folks were. Those that were on online and working were obviously not drinking margaritas, but it was just a great way to integrate and make them feel like part of the team. All right, so onboarding checklist. This is something that you need to be thinking about. Setting up all the tech, giving them an email, phone number assigned to them, your WellSky or Access or whomever, all your other software credentialing that they're going to need access to. Introduce them to everybody on your team. You could even do a quick video to introduce them like I did. Review your company goals and culture. That helps them to feel like they're part of something bigger, and they see how integral their role is to your success. By the way, many virtual assistants who've been doing this for a long time, many of them been doing 10, 15 years as a virtual assistant or working in a call center or whatever it is. They were doing contract work. They want to be part of an American company, and they love it. They feel blessed to be part of a secure company and grow with you versus, never knowing how long this contract's going to last, and then they're, looking for another job. You will see that on their resumes. You will see that the fact that they may have a lot of job experiences, and when you tackle that in your interview, you'll often hear that their contracts. Okay, the communication protocols, what you're going to be expecting, how often they're going to be checking in, etc. You'll review what their training program looks like, and then you begin the training. So let's talk about that, because this is where I see folks maybe don't give enough effort to this piece. And training your VA is so important. it's as important as though you were hiring somebody in your office. All right. Here are some tips. Start small and then scale their responsibilities. So use your screen sharing for training and demos, and record those trainings. Record everything so that they can refer to it. All right. It's so much easier than you having to repeat. Also have your training manual or your SOPs clearly outlined, all your standard operating systems, your processes, etc. If you have a backup manual, that's going to help them. And when you're training, be pointing to where they could find that in the manual. All right. So we say, if we're talking about training on scheduling, this is how we handle a call out. Go to your call out process and so that they see and they remember, if I have a question about this, I go to the document versus having to go to you or the trainer. So it just helps alleviate a lot of that training stress. Allow time for practice, provide feedback. All right, so allow them to do, and then you can refine how they're doing. And then it's not a train, it's once and done. Use the recording. If you're using Ring Central as an example, those calls can be recorded. Always check in, and you can refine and help them to get better at whatever it is that they're needing some work on. All right. So I can't emphasize how important training is. And those that are really successful, and the VAs that are just like where you've got owners going, I don't know how I did without this person. It's those people, because here's what you have. You've got a college educated person, smart, willing, motivated. And if you've given them the training, they'll be able to do more for you. Okay. All right. So let's go on to some questions. Do you have any feedback before I go into the Q&A, Julio?
You're doing fantastic. I think that the way that you're presenting this is really important. I think that to understand that it's a win-win situation for everyone, right? That the part where you're talking about how happy the VAs are to work for someone here is really, really important. They are when they're working with folks here in the States, they're getting better quality of life, they're getting better work conditions, they're getting better management, and they're making far more money than they would make where they are. So this is an absolutely very, very healthy relationship between the agency and the folks working for you, and you should treat them as such. So I appreciate you bringing that up. It's a really important to note.
Exactly. Great. Thanks. Well, I'm going to go through some of the common questions that we get on a pretty regular basis. And the first one is, how do I handle communication when my recruiter is working remotely? That's probably the number one question. Well, it's a lot easier today. We've got Zoom and WhatsApp, phones, internet-based phone systems like Ring Central, Google Workspace make it much easier for us to collaborate and integrate with the daily routines and with the team. We have a shared dashboard. We do daily check-ins, as I said, and we've got, we're holding them accountable to those key KPIs, and we meet on a regular basis. So some of our clients will actually say they're more responsive than their in-person hires because they're very dedicated to their tasks. And so, like my recruiters, as an example, they are sitting there day in and day out doing back-to-back interviews, in our case, every 20 minutes. And we're hiring 35 caregivers a month. So, you've got folks that are, it's just as easy as though they're sitting in your office nowadays. The next question is, how much does a virtual assistant cost compared to US-based employees? All right, so here is where we can start to improve our margins. So a typical VA costs between $13 and $16 an hour, compared to, and depending on the state that you're hiring in, between $25 and $35 an hour. Those poor folks, our colleagues in California, they're spending a lot of money. I was just talking to somebody, I think their minimum wage is $18.25. So that's just for their caregivers. So you can imagine that this is a 50 to 70% savings on your and these folks that you could be hiring in your office. All right, so how do I train a VA if they're not in the office? So training can be done virtually, just like onboarding any remote employee. You can do a shared walkthroughs, just like we're doing right now. We're share screen and we can show them. So, makes it really easy. I think I spent quite a bit of time on that one. So I'm just going to move on to the next one. The next question is, can virtual assistants access our operating systems? Yes, most home care platforms and EMRs like Access, WellSky, I'm sure you're, I'm afraid to say Care Time, but could I still say, yeah, Care Time, Access Care, all of those have web-based access and makes remote no problem. You want to be working with reputable VA agencies that follow strict HIPAA compliance protocols, as I said earlier, and that you get that specific certification for your VA with their name on it, because the penalties can be really lofty, like up to $50,000 per violation. So we don't want that. All right, next question. What is the difference between hiring a VA independently versus through an agency? So similar to what we say and how we answer that in our home care business. When you hire independently, you're responsible for the recruiting, the background checks, paying them directly, which can be an issue because we've got currency issues and employer laws that apply. You need to know that. But of course, through an agency, you get pre-vetted candidates, built-in supervision. They do they should be doing the background checks for you. Replacement guarantees are part of that as well. And this model exempts you from employer taxes. All right, that's the big one. The agency should also provide extensive background checks, so you can ensure that they're doing that. All right, let's move on to our next one. Will my VA work my business hours? That's a common one because they think that somehow, because they're on the other part of the world, how does that affect the schedule? They work according to your schedule. And as I said, the VAs have been working with American companies for a long, long time. They're very accustomed to working the night shift. So most of them work from their home and have all of the technology that's necessary. Of course, that's something that you'd want to check with the agency that you're working with too, to make sure that they have power backups and all of those things. But the VAs adjust to your agency's time zone and your needs, your shift needs. So if you're needing 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., whatever it is, they'll be able to handle that. All right. And they'll be sourcing and recruiting your VA according to your schedule. All right. They commit to that schedule, just like our caregivers do when we're starting them. All right, so our last question here is, how do I know if I'm ready to hire a VA? All right, so here's the thing. If your team is in constant reactive mode, if you're behind on some of those things we talked about, scheduling, struggling to keep up with recruiting, and if you folks are overwhelmed with the administrative work, it's probably time. So start with a time audit and list what your staff is currently spending time doing that doesn't require local presence. So what are things that they can take off their plate and put onto somebody else's plate? And that starts to develop a job description, okay? Again, have them do what's stressing you out. What are you not able to do that's really important to the success of our business? They know what it is. If you ask them many, many times, they know the answer. And you can then start to create that job description. And those tend to be really good tasks for a virtual assistant. All right. So that's just a nice way to get thinking about it. All right. Well, what is the risk of doing nothing to improve your operation? I love this saying, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? So if you've got folks that are burned out and you don't do anything about it, you're probably going to lose them. If you're in chaos, you don't want to live in chaos, not a good place to live. you got to change some things to bring some control. If you're missing growth opportunity, not a good thing. We want to get you growing, right? If you've got unhappy clients and caregivers, missed task stress, and don't do anything about it, it's not a good place to be. All right, so just a refresher really quick. If you are needing some support in filling these roles, recruiter, scheduler, on-call, lead management, finance, administrative assistants, you can schedule a demo with that QR code. Take a quick screen share of that, and we'll be happy to help you. And wow, we got through that in a nick of time. Right.
If you folks are interested in learning more about building your infrastructure with VAs, absolutely click yes on this screen. Debbie and her team will reach out to you folks and give you as much information as you like. Just press the letter A, and they would love to hear more about your business and how they can help. Give these guys a few minutes to fill that out.
Is it running? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think it's running. There you go, folks. Thank you so much. All right, perfect. So we've got folks answering. Again, remember, having these conversations when you're a business owner, it's always worth a conversation. I tell people all the time. I said, there's nothing to be hurt by talking, chatting. Let's listen to your problems. If we can help, we can help. And if we can't help, then we may be able to suggest who can. So having known Debbie for many years, I know that their conversations are very well done. If you're interested in learning any more about the in-home division of LivTech, particularly Alora, LivTech recently acquired Alora Home Health. So now LivTech, as part of our in-home division, is operating a home health EHR and hospice, as well as home care, specializing in Medicaid, as well as our revenue cycle management system. If you're want to learn more about 52 Weeks Marketing, which is Debbie's marketing company, as well as Helper Heroes, please press A, B, or C, or all three. All three is certainly an option. So we would love to learn more about you guys. Again, the in-home division at LivTech and my team in particular, we're passionate about private care. We're passionate about what you folks are doing every day, and we've helped thousands of agencies over the past few years improve their operations, save money, and increase their collection of their funds. Thank you so much for taking an hour out of your very busy day, and come back and see us again soon. And Debbie, as always, thank you so much for doing that with us.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you in June. Bye for now.
All right. Bye, folks.